I never imagined that moving to the countryside would bring me closer to fear than peace. A few months ago, I left behind the noise and chaos of the city for a quiet, secluded house on the outskirts of town. It was perfect, far enough from the main road that I could enjoy complete solitude. The house itself was old but charming, with a sprawling backyard enclosed by dense trees and overgrown hedges. It was the kind of place where time seemed to slow down. I thought I would finally have the peace I had always craved. Then the footsteps began. At first, I ignored them. It was easy to blame my imagination, the rustling of leaves in the wind, or the occasional deer wandering through. But as the nights passed, the sounds became more distinct. It wasn't the erratic movement of an animal. These were deliberate, slow, careful footsteps weaving through the garden. Sometimes they would stop abruptly, as if whoever, or whatever, it was had sensed my presence. One night, I sat on my bed with my reading lamp on, trying to focus on a book, when I heard it again. The steady crunch of grass, the soft snap of a twig. I held my breath, listening. My hands tightened around the edges of the book, my pulse quickening. This time, I knew it wasn't just the wind. Determined to put an end to my paranoia, I grabbed the flashlight I kept by my bedside and headed for the back porch. The moment I stepped outside, a deep chill filled the air. The garden was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that felt unnatural, almost staged. I swept the beam of my flashlight over the bushes, the tall grass, the trees swaying gently in the moonlight. Nothing. Then I saw it, a figure, barely visible in the shadows, crouching behind the old oak tree. My stomach dropped. The light from my flashlight barely reached that far, but I could make out the outline of a person, their body hunched low, their head tilted slightly, as if they were watching me. My breath hitched in my throat. "Hey!" I called out, my voice shaky. "Who's there?" The figure didn't move. A paralyzing dread gripped me. I knew instinctively that something was wrong. A normal person would react. Run away, speak up, do something. But this figure just remained there, frozen, staring. I took a shaky step backward toward the door, keeping my eyes locked on the tree. The figure didn't flinch. With trembling hands, I yanked open the door and slammed it shut behind me, locking it with frantic movements. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst from my chest. I barely slept that night. Every creak of the house sent waves of terror through me. I kept my flashlight beside me, my ears straining for any sign that the stranger was still out there. But the night passed without another sound. The next morning, with a pit in my stomach, I stepped outside. The crisp morning air did little to ease my nerves as I walked toward the tree. My breath caught in my throat when I saw them. Footprints. Fresh ones, leading from the far end of the yard directly toward my back door. They stopped just inches from the threshold, as if someone had been standing there, watching me through the glass. I stared at them for a long time, a cold sweat breaking over my skin. But what truly unsettled me wasn't just the footprints. It was the lack of any leading away. Whoever had stood at my door had never left. Or, at least, they hadn't left in a way I could see. After that night, I became hyper-aware of my surroundings. I triple-checked the locks, kept my phone within arm's reach, and even considered calling the police. But what could I say? That I saw a shadow in my yard? That I heard footsteps? There was no proof of a crime, no indication of a break-in. So I told myself it was just some local troublemaker. Then, things started happening inside the house. It began subtly. I would leave a window closed, only to find it slightly ajar in the morning. A chair would be moved, just a few inches from where I last placed it. My keys, which I always left on the kitchen counter, would end up on the floor. One evening, as I prepared dinner, I caught something in my peripheral vision, a flicker of movement by the window. My breath caught, and I turned quickly, but there was nothing. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. One night, a week after I first saw the figure, I woke up to the sound of my bedroom door creaking open. My blood turned to ice. I had locked that door before going to bed. I was certain of it. In the darkness, I could just make out the faint outline of the door swinging open, inch by inch. My body refused to move, paralyzed with fear.